Good morning. I like what Amanda said. Good morning, family. That's what it should be like. It should be no matter who you meet, no matter where you're at, being on here, you should be like family. And not the crazy kind, just y'all know those, but I'm just kidding. But good family. We should treat each other with open arms, willing to share and willing to feed them whatever we have in our house. Sometimes it's canned tuna, whatever. But thank you for saying that, Amanda. So, you guys are my family, and this is a good day. So today we're going to be talking about the word is mercy, or on your end, mercy. Say it with me, mercy. So I will just jump in because last couple weeks, you have your days, you have your good days, and those go pretty steady, and then all of a sudden something surprises you and you're like, ooh, how did that crush me so bad? And I've had a couple of those in the last couple of weeks, and we all have. Right now, it is super sad what Oregon is going through, California, Washington, everybody on the West Coast, and there's others too, but the fires are horrible, and it's just like, come on, really, right now? And yet I have nothing to complain about because I know that there are people out there who have lost their home. I pray a lot for them. Some of you saw the video of my brother. He's a firefighter, and he's a little older than me, fighting 24-hour shifts. That's a lot of work, and he's tired. So we're just praying a lot for everybody who's going through this. So let's keep them in our prayers, and let's have a good day. Okay, ready? Amber, are you ready? Okay. So today's word is mercy, like I said. And we've heard that word a lot. And when you read the Bible, people quote the verse, and it says, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Have you heard that? God's mercies are new every morning. Great is his faithfulness. I want to explain to you what I believe mercy is to me and how it shows up every morning and why and what does that mean. Okay, so this is me explaining it to you. You guys have probably studied it. Some of you maybe never really gave it much thought other than, isn't that nice? His mercies are new every day. That's great. But what does it mean? So I looked up the word mercy. I know it, but I wanted to see what the dictionary said. And it says that it's compassion or forgiveness when in the power, whoever has that power could punish or harm. So really, it's pretty cool that God has his abilities to do whatever he wants. He can. But when he says his mercies every day, new every day, he has compassion and forgiveness. Compassion. That's pretty cool because there's days where let me put it in some succinct way that you can understand, just like I did. And it was really cool how it came to me, and my hubby said, you should tell him. All right. How many of you have a cell phone? Yep. Well, mine is pretty older than yours, I'm guessing. But we have a cell phone, and sometimes they talk about rollover minutes, and we're like, whew, we have enough rollover minutes to the next day. And a lot of us treat God's mercy like that there's rollover minutes. Well, I gotta have enough mercy today because today was a lot worse than yesterday. And I want you to see it as it's not rollover minutes. It's an endless, unlimited plan, if you will. So I want you to envision a scale. So, you have, is a pendulum, and it's sitting there, and then you have wires hanging down, and you have these two bowls. All right. And one day, this is you, and it's just like, okay, I need God's mercy. And then he goes, okay, drops it. And then it's like, it's nice and even. And then one day it's just like, whoop. And do you think God doesn't have enough for that day? Did you depend on the rollover minutes? Or did you know that God says, no, I have enough for today. So he takes and goes, and then it goes back up. cool thing about God is he has enough for that day. You don't know how much you need, but he does. And so that's a cool analogy, right? So here's another thing. The problem with that and understanding that is we're like, hey, that's cool, but why don't I feel that sometimes? The problem is sometimes we don't take time to receive it. We don't receive it because we're like, well, what is this mercies? And why am I not seeing it? Because quite honestly, my husband and I have been talking, it's easier to see the bad sometimes than the good. And quite honestly, God is faithful. He is good. Remember I said, have childlike faith. Remember that if he said he's going to protect you, he's going to show up with mercy to even out that scale. You got to believe him. But here, let me give you an example of what mercy is to me. So, like I said, there was a few days that I had, crushed me, and we have those days. We're human. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. You're a Christian. You should be bubbly all the time and everything is fine. No cares in the world. We live what's called life, and life is real. And so what we have to understand is how to get through those instances, okay? And he's going to start teaching you. So the best way for those scales to even out is God wants you to hear truth. And so here's how you hear truth. What does God think of you? So, because what I'm saying is when life hits you and it wants to crush you and it wants to uneven that and you're like bottoming out, well, sometimes we tend to say, well, what good am I? What worth do I have? What am I good at? And we start listening to our lies, the enemy's lies, and God says, come on, I'm trying to give you some more mercy to even it out, and you're not receiving it. You got to allow him to tell you truth. And my husband said to me, after something like crushed me, he said, all I can tell you is I need you to know who you are. And started clicking. I'm a child of the King. I am a good mom, a really good mom. I am a good wife. And if you can't find those things, you gotta try, because that's God totally created you and made you. And if you're not finding them, it's because you're lying to yourself and you're not allowing his mercies to come in. You're not allowing him to even the playing field. So stop keeping track of the mercy. Stop taking track of the rollover times, if you will. But he knows what you need every day. He knows. But you got to let it in. You got to start telling truth. So I want you guys to be challenged with that this week, is that when you start going through things, don't start with the negative. Say, okay, who am I? Okay, I know for sure God said I'm a child of the King. Start reading scripture, whatever's going to teach you who you are, and start believing it, because he created you. He didn't lie to you, and he didn't mess up. Okay? I love you guys. Have a great week, even through the mess. And my husband, he's on next.
Good morning. So this is always an experience that we've kind of grown accustomed to, in the sense of what we do on Sunday mornings. And I know that there are still a lot of discussions in regards to what it's going to look like to be able to regather and assemble together. And we're still working through those discussions, and obviously there's a ways to go on this yet. But again, I'm so grateful for the fact that we can do even just this, because again, can you imagine even 10 years ago not really having the technology on something like a phone to be able to do this? And I noticed Amanda mentioned something about Verizon's plan being expensive, but I'm thankful that we have some sort of plan available that we can actually do this together. And again, your comments are, the whole time I was listening to Leah, I'm reading all of the comments that are going on there. And I know that as I'm speaking, Leah is reading the comments. And we want to just say again, thank you for your participation. It's not unnoticed, it's very much noticed, and it is a great source of encouragement to us. Want to just again say hello to everybody. I feel like sometimes we mention certain people's names, but I know that just this last week, for whatever reason, I was thinking about Ashley, and then I know that Jessica and Gus and some different ones tried to connect, and so I just, again, please don't ever think that you're being forgotten. I know if you're on here, some of you, I saw somebody say something that they're doing travel church today, so they're out going somewhere. I think it was Ron and Faye, or I'm not exactly sure who said that because somebody posted something else quickly and it scrolled up too quickly. So I'm going to do the same as Leah, and I'm going to dive back in, and I want to just kind of segue off of something that she said. And what's funny is we do not consult with each other on what notes we're going to share. And one of the things that I love that she said is that especially when you get up in the morning, I mean, sometimes it's the nighttime where your brain is just over functioning, and you're worrying about things, or you're anxious about things, and we all know what verses we learned about not being anxious about anything, about praying, and just all the things that we're supposed to do, but it still happens. And one of the things that Leah said is maybe you need to invest more time in bringing truth into your life, and she mentioned reading the Bible, and obviously that is a clear direction that we should all be participating in trying to feed ourselves. But sometimes it's listening to music. You can find truth that comes in from the words of music. I mean, yeah, we should filter, but I'm not just saying just Christian music. I mean, sometimes I listen to music that just is inspiring. I kind of have Joshua kind of is started where he's enjoying some jazz music. I'm a huge 1930s music fan. In fact, I'll usually tell that device that I won't mention to play 1930s music, and get to listen to people like Frank Sinatra, Bing Crosby. I mean, just different people that it's inspiring. And some of the words to those classic songs can bring just a level and measure of happiness. Now, I want to just kind of use that for a second, because she also mentioned something about how as Christians, we're kind of programmed or taught that, we should always, be upbeat and everything. I want to talk about something that is something my mom used to say, hi Mom, that used to actually kind of drive me crazy. And it really is what I'm going to be talking about today. And I remember asking Mom, and I would say things like, Mom, how long do I have to do this? Like if it was cleaning my room or homework. And one of her favorite things to respond was, as long as it takes. So that's for you, Mom. As long as it takes. I was thinking about that the other day, and I was thinking about this conformity thing that we're trying in the midst of a world. It's an election year, and so we talked about the power of news, and we talked about the 12 spies that went in to see the promised land, and how 10 of those spies came back and said, this is impossible. There's giants in the land, and it's a fortified city, and there's no way we can do this. But 2 of them said, what are you talking about? I mean, God's given us this city. We can do this. And so when you talk about how do you become the Joshua and Caleb type, the 2 spies that had the good report, how do you do that? And how do you kind of become that? And then last week we talked about the fact that what are they called before they're butterflies? They are caterpillars. Thank you. I'm glad my wife's here with me because I forgot. Caterpillars are not meant to fly, but they're meant to transform into something that is intended to fly. And so again, it's just they don't fly, but they're designed to change to fly. And so I just thinking about that and just kind of looking at that, and then I asked myself my question. I was like, okay, so I've been at this process where I'm really trying to stay focused. And if you were with us last week, I just used kind of an acronym for focus, and that's fixing our concentration upon salvation. And when I say salvation, I don't mean in the sense that you are spiritually saved, but think of the word salvation as rescued, help, because that's what having God on our side is about. Is that when we're going through difficult situations and hearing all the noise that's going on with all the news, and then certainly seeing what's happening with the wildfires, and just again, it's just America right now. The world is kind of focused on just kind of the chaos that's happening here, but how do we live transformed? And how am I doing in this? And so then I started looking kind of inwardly at, how do I approach, certain situations? How do I approach people? How do I approach conversations? How do I approach what we're doing right now? And I realized I'm not there yet. And then that phrase entered my head. Well, how long do I have to do this? And my mom would say, as long as it takes. As long as it takes. Now, I believe all of us, all things being equal, we know that there's work to do. And sometimes we think that saying what we think God wants us to say is going to be enough to make it look like we're transformed. So we're kind of getting into some detail, and I hope you will stick with me. But it's not what we're saying, because we can sit there and go, oh, God is so good, but inwardly we're falling apart. And I think that when we project something that is not true, and it's true that God is good, but if you're struggling, one of the best things that you can do is work on that struggle and do it as long as it takes, so that now there's transformation. Because we all know and have known people that, man, they sound really good. They say the right things, but then we watch the story of their life and it doesn't match up. And so for me, I think that there's a huge part of this in wanting to be someone that is making a difference in the world, and you wanting to be someone that's making a difference in the world. It has a lot to do with integrity. Now, I don't not advocating that we go around saying, oh, my life is horrible and I just need everybody to fix it for me. Because there's a lot of things that we're going to have to combine with the effort of the Spirit and God help, and sometimes other people to help guide us so that there can be genuine transformation. Because, and you can listen to the Christian music, you can read devotionals, but unless they start to change you, you're just going through the motions. The whole point of this is allowing there to be this transformation. And one of the things that, I believe, like I started to say, all things being equal, I really believe that if we were all sitting around a table and God was sitting there with us, and he would say to us, what do you want to become? I think all of us inwardly, we want to be good. We want to do what his best is. I think that we would be very equal in that. And so if that's a question that could be posed to us, how do we do that? And in Jeremiah, a very familiar verse, in Jeremiah chapter 1, it talks about how it says that before we were even formed in the womb, God has plans for us. Now, those plans are something that I want to tap into, because ultimately the plans that God has for you and I would be plans about good, plans about making a difference in our families and in the lives of people around that. And so I then was looking at this thing, well, how is John doing? And I realized I need to do more, but how long am I in this for? Well, again, as long as it takes. And as I was thinking about that, 2 Corinthians 3:18, again, recently we've been reading in the Message Bible, and it just says, so we are, that's speaking about us, we are transfigured, or you could say transformed, much like the Messiah. And listen to what it says. It says, our lives gradually becoming brighter and more beautiful as God enters our lives and we become like him. We gradually are becoming brighter and more beautiful as God enters our lives and we strive to become like him. So I want to just kind of think through this. I like to read. One of the things that I enjoy doing Last night, I took a magazine that I just recently had received in the mail. I was reading through a bunch of different articles that were in there, and before I went to bed, and Leah, we went to bed a little bit earlier than we normally do, and she's been reading through a book, and I'm sure you've read books of some sort, but all of us would understand that if you pick up a book and read a chapter and then just put the book down and never pick it up again, you don't know the story. You cannot honestly say, I read that book. You started it, but what if the chapter that you read or the two chapters that you read were just building the story and it has some crazy twists and turns in it, and then the outcome is so totally different than what your perception of it was because you didn't finish the book? Well, we are in a gradual process, and our lives are like books, and we're in this, obviously, until the end. How is our story going to be told, reflected? What differences will we have made through this pandemic, through this election, through the injustices that we're seeing happen? I mean, are we sitting by idly, or are we engaged in saying, man, I'm going to make a difference so that people don't look at me and see what they may see in other people, and I want to stand out. I want to go and make a difference in the marketplace, and I want to be that person that when I'm going through the cash register line, that when I get to the clerk, that somehow my highest goal is not to just hurry and get out of there, but my highest goal is to make that person somehow smile and feel like I genuinely connected with them. Those are simple things that we can do. We talk about giving back to community, and people then look for soup kitchens to be a part of, and helping with the homeless, and those are all powerful, wonderful things. But sometimes giving back to your community is as simple as making a difference in the places that you shop locally, you dine out, just making a difference in the people that you come contact with to make them feel special and understand that you're there because you care. You're not just there shopping or there just to eat. And so I want you to think about this. I read something recently, and I don't know why this came to me, but I want you to think about, and I had a conversation with somebody last night, and I used this as an illustration, but I want you to think about the story of you. The story of you. And I see the story of you and I as kind of having two aspects. And again, it's funny because Leah already talked a little bit about this, and she had no idea I was going to be talking about this. So the story of you is, when we get together with people, especially when we're meeting somebody for the first time, when you're trying to connect at some level at communication, you're telling bits and pieces about who you are. It's the story of you. And then they in turn are telling you their story about themselves. It's the story of them to us. But when we're telling a story of ourselves, I see that there's kind of two principles in this. And one side of it is there's the story of you according to you. Okay? And that's the narrative that you define based on things that you have experienced. Maybe you're telling the story about how you like a certain type of food. Maybe you're telling the story about, the types of books that you like. But those are your narrative based to what you feel about according to you. But there's another part of the story of you that I believe is a lot more important than just according to you. And that is the story of you according to God. Isn't it funny? Leah talked about this, knowing who you are, knowing what he says about you, instead of all the negative thoughts and all the negative and connotations that we often focus on. It's focusing on the story of you according to God. Now, you can allow the story of you according to God to also be the narrative that helps define the story of you according to you. Because when you see help, when you see that you're not in this alone, no matter what you're going through, whether it's looking at, the coronavirus situation or looking at it, just whatever it is that you're looking at, if you view it through the lens that you're alone, and I know some of us have been in, had to quarantine for 14 days. Some of us have had to, not do things that we normally do. There's people that are not going out like they used to. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of changes that have taken place, and that can create an incredible amount of loneliness, despair, frustration, on and on and on and on and on. But the reality is, when your narrative reflects that the story of you according to God is that you're not alone, then all of a sudden things begin to change. What's been cool for Leah and I to see through some of these challenges that we've put out to you guys is that when you've accepted them, there's been people that have commented, I took time to call somebody, and I took time to do this, and it just made their day. Guys, that is so practical on ways that we can share encouragement. Again, by the way, if you could share this video, that would be a great encouragement and a great way to get this message out to more people. We can do our part to make a difference in this world that we're in. So, how do we get to allowing our story to reflect or to start becoming what is God's story about us? Well, I was reading through a devotional a while back, and I had jotted down a few things that were just, they're kind of duh statements, but they're also genius in the sense that if we would practically apply them, it would make a world of difference in our lives. So are you ready for this? Okay. Some of you are doing travel church today, so this is going to help you. To go somewhere else, you have to leave where you are. I mean, that is just, probably a 2-year-old could figure that out. But think about it. To get to somewhere else, you want to be a different person, you want your story to change, you have to be willing to leave where you are. You have to be willing to leave where you are. Here's a couple other thoughts that were jotted down. You have to leave what's known. Letting these sink in. You have to be willing to leave what's comfortable. You have to be willing to leave what's predictable. Isn't it funny that we want to be able to say, oh, as long as I can predict and just, I'm a creature of habit, man, I want to just be in control. Oh, wait a second. You have to be willing to let go and leave what you can control. If you can control it, you're not reaching for the best, because God says you can do all things with Him are possible. But you got to move beyond. This one is a big one. To get to where you want to go, you also have to be willing to leave what's easy. Now, all of us are, okay, we all like our comfort. We all like to be the one that just, people make me feel good. But what about if we start, man, we're going to push out there to help others. And so this was a thought that the author wrote down. He said, to step toward your destiny, you may have to step away from your security. Guys, we're living in an uncomfortable world. That's the new norm. I mean, I when I go shopping, it's like, okay, is this person coming straight towards me, or am I supposed to be standing 6 feet away from them? Do I wait to go into that aisle because there's too many people in that aisle? I mean, there's just all this uncomfortable, but you know what? We can still do it with a smile on our eyes because we're wearing a mask. But here's the thing that I want us to kind of think about as we come to a conclusion of this. I want to go back to the verse again. So you and I are transformed or transfigured much like the Messiah. Our lives gradually becoming brighter and more beautiful as God enters our lives, and we become, that's a choice, and we become like Him. It's our goal. I want to think and act the way Jesus would act. I want to respond in this measure that He would be looking for people's needs and the concerns that they have, and engage them in conversations that are hopeful and helpful and we can do the same thing. And so here's the question that I kind of want us to say is, who knows where God will take our story, the story of you, if we would just let him. I mean, who knows what could happen? But we have to be that willing candidate. We have to come to this and say, you know what, I want to apply not just, you know, the songs that I sing and the words that I repeat that come from Scripture or come from, you know, authors that are, you know, motivational speakers that are trying. No, I want to apply it to me so that my story is changing. And how long is that going to take? Well, I don't know, but like my mom says, as long as it takes. And I would say that as long as we're here, if we're seeking, how can I do more? How can I do more? Well, I think there's always more we can do. And here's the great thing, going back to what Leah said. But you're given mercy to be able to do it. You've been given this wonderful gift, and I loved what she read when she read the definition. Not sure if all of us know what a dictionary is, but you can Google it if you need to instead of a dictionary. But I love the first word that was used in the definition. The word was, what is mercy? First word was compassion. Compassion. How can we find a common passion in the people that we're around to show them that we really care, to show them that we're all in this together? Guys, I hope you're doing well. I hope that as we see at least where we're at more cases and also seeing a decline in certain areas, be safe, and let's continue to strive to do our best in this crazy mixed up world. And I believe that where you go, I really believe this is not about, you know, just John and Leah. I really believe that all of us, wherever we go and whatever we do, when we strive to want to do more, it makes a difference in this crazy world, and it brings some calm to the crazy. And right now, I believe there's a lot of people that are looking for something that's calming. Let's try to do that together. Have a great day.